Calling the meeting to order at 6 p.m. This is the regular business meeting for the Ashland Parks and Recreation Commission of May 13th, 2026. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lund? Commissioner Weiner?
Here.
Commissioner Bachman?
Here.
Commissioner Gardner?
Here.
Thank you. Third item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have 3 sets here: the Park Commission study session of April 1st, the regular business meeting of April 8th, and our strategic planning workshop on April 18th. Without objection, anybody have any changes? Okay, then I'll ask for unanimous consent. No objections noted. They pass by. We have approved the minutes by unanimous consent. I don't know of any additions or deletions to the agenda. That's 4. On to 5, the public forum. I don't see anybody that wants to speak to us tonight. Nothing on the consent agenda, which gets us down to business in record time here. The first item on the business agenda item is Ashland Creek Fish Rehabilitation Project. Information, possible action. And I'm going to ask Acting Director Dials to introduce our presenter.
Thank you, Chair Bachman. I'm going to invite Scott Howell with Rogue River Restoration Council to come up and speak to us tonight. And he's going to give a presentation on the Ashland Creek Fish Rehabilitation Project, also known as the Gravel Restoration Proposal, in front of you tonight. In the packet tonight, the part of the Lithia Park Master Plan recommendation number 9, pages 69 to 71, if you weren't familiar, to augment the input of gravel, cobble, and wood material to Ashland Creek. Scott's going to talk about the project that he is going to hopefully work on. And Scott is looking for some direction tonight, some possible action on moving this forward this evening. So, Scott?
Thank you. Welcome, Scott. Before you start, I just want to, for the record, Commissioner Adams is now here. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for having me. Patience with me a little bit if I struggle with getting the mechanics of this going, but I think we're on task here. As she said, I'm the director of Rogue River Restoration Council, a nonprofit that we've put together to just focus on local fish issues, where I think some of the bigger foundations get caught up on equally as important or maybe more important big issues. We're focused on local stuff like we're presenting here to you tonight at Ashland Creek. Start by this picture right here. I think demonstrates exactly what we're talking about. This is right up below Granite Street Dam. You can see the gravel that's there. That's nothing that's naturally in that creek. That's been placed there. And that's kind of a side story to this that I'll get into as we go through this presentation. I want to start with this. I think just to capture your attention and show maybe some of you are aware, maybe some of you aren't, of what we have, the magic that we have going on in our little creek. Everybody walks it, it's beautiful, the dogwoods, all that, but I don't know that a lot of people look over the side and notice that it's a home to our fish as well. And I ask you to just watch this. This is pretty special. You'll see a male coming up from the left to join the female, and halfway through the video, you'll actually see the female digging the gravel. You'll see a bunch of juvenile males chasing around, and they're chasing trout, and there's just a whole lot going on right here that's going on underneath our nose when we walk on the trail. So I invite you to look at this. But you'll see this male fighting. Just the spawning urge is something else, like to get up there to that female. This is right up what I call you can see her digging up by the upper outhouse, which is just below that new big house they're building up there. Just incredible. I mean, it's even for a fish guy, you can see all the little trout darting around, and there he is with her. And boy, we spent a bunch of time there filming that. But that's just, I'll tell you, in from December to the middle of April, there's a lot of that going on. If you spend any amount of time out there on the creek, it's there to be seen every single day. For those of you, maybe once again, sometimes I just assume that everybody knows what I'm talking about, but that's a steelhead. And I'm a fishing guide, so believe me, I got endless pictures of steelhead that are better than that one. But I did use that one simply because you can see it's fairly dated. but that was ODF survey program that they did on the lower end of the creek, and that's a fish that was caught in Ashland Creek in a hoop trap years ago. So that's not just some random fish. That's what I'm talking about. That's an Ashland Creek summer steelhead right there. Just some history of this. I think a lot of you, I think, got a chance to look at this presentation. So for me to go through and read every one of these, I don't know, makes a lot of sense because it might be somewhat redundant. I think that's the beauty of the project and why I've tried to keep the slideshow so simple. It's a pretty simple project. This isn't a big complicated thing. The issue's simple. The solution is simple, and I think I've tried to represent that in the slideshow. So historically, it's been one of the main spawning tributaries of Bear Creek, and to this day, it's it's the best water quality, the coldest water in the whole Bear Creek system. And I know a lot of us just think of Bear Creek as kind of a cesspool, but it is probably our biggest spawning tributary of the Rogue River when it comes to summer steelhead. Still, even the little urban streams in Medford, where Jackson Creek, Griffin Creek, Lone Pine Creek by the airport, all those streams are full of steelhead. So anyway, big driver in the Bear Creek watershed. The goals of this, our objectives. I think a couple things to this is the first one, building resilience in a wild steelhead facing the climate change headwinds. The fact I'm not shaving right now is testament to that. I spent all day out on the creek, and I had hoped to get home and prepare myself for this, but I was on a couple little streams, Dry Creek and Foots Creek, and we set up these traps to salvage juvenile steelhead as they're leaving because they're just hatching right now. And we set these traps up, and you get out migration of these juveniles, and they trap themselves. But today we set a trap, and usually they're good for even a week. And we went up to set another trap, and by the time we got down to the lower trap, it was dry, bone dry. The creek dried completely up in a matter of 2 hours. You saw a creek just disappear. So when I talk about the headwinds of climate change, it's real. It's what, May 13th? These streams, on bad years, historically have dried up the end of June, not May 13th. So I think to give these fish any kind of assistance we can is important. Another key thing, probably equally as important for you guys, is just how this completes an action in your master plan. This is going to be something where we come in, we do all the dirty work, we're going to pay for it, and you guys can just check a box. And I think that's a win for everybody. The proposed project, the nitty-gritty of this is we would like to bring in 20 yards of washed rock, so sediment issues and stuff from depositing gravel in the creek won't be an issue. And we're going to spread that throughout the entire length of the park. So we're not going to go in, some gravel augmentation, supplementation programs like they do on the North Umpqua. They go in below the dam and they just dump a bunch of gravel and they let it do its thing. I'm going to go into why that doesn't work here. And I think strategic placement, like we talk about here, is really, really important. It's going to be a pretty short-lived project. I think we can do it in 1 to 2 days, and with not pretty non-invasive, won't interrupt a lot that's going on in the park. Just temporary storage for a couple days in a couple of the parking lots, and we'll take care of the rest. We've got a plan to do it. You can only do in-stream work through the summer into early fall. So this will be a project that we'll have done each year, hopefully, as we get towards the middle into September. This year, we may be able to get an extension because the water is going to be so low that with the in-stream work won't be an issue because it will be mostly dry. So this might be something this year we'll be able to do even in October. This is something that I think we would like to continue on in the future. We're obviously going to have to come back and revisit at some point, maybe a 5-year window to I know with DSL and stuff, we're going to have to get reissued permits, but I can see, and I'll talk about it, how this is going to be something we're going to have to revisit every year. The strategic place is important because years ago, in the 80s, the rogue fly fishers went and did a gravel supplementation program on Ashland Creek, where I don't think they were near, I know they weren't. My dad was a rogue fly fisher. I know John McDermott, who was involved in that project. I've talked to him extensively about it. They weren't nearly as strategic as we plan to be. Here's a good example. As you look to the right, as that pool kind of goes into a little elbow right there, I don't know if you can visualize it, but it's a good time to point out the fact that a lot of this work has been done. We've done a lot of this, for lack of a better term, under the radar. We just have gone in and done it. And we've used little spots like this little elbow where we've gone in and put gravel, and it's not only has it worked well for the fish, but it holds the gravel really, really well. Actually, that little elbow you see right there where that pile of rocks are, that's where we placed this gravel right there that you see, that you saw in the first video of the fish spawning. That's that spot. And it's been 8 years. It's used every single year. Got a great video from fish there again this year. Why is this project important? You walk through the park, you think it's pretty. Why do we need to even do this, right? Like I say, unless you look at it from a fish's eye, you think everything's fine in that creek. But the spawning habitat next to the airport on Lone Pine Creek is better than we have going on right there, and I'll tell you why. That's a huge part of it right there. As you can imagine, the Granite Street Dam stops all gravel migration from coming downstream. Very little gravel spills over that. That does is just decomposed granite. You don't get any real good river cobble that makes it over of spawning, good spawning size gravel that makes it over the dam. So that's the culprit. I don't want to dive into that. I know there's issues and people have made proposals about taking that out. That's not why we're here. I don't want to get sidetracked with that. But the fact it is there. And I think in the short term, we have a solution to help, to help solve the problem. Another issue, as like say you walk along the creek, it's pretty until you look out with the fish's eye. So much of the stream banks have been armored, rip-wrapped. A lot of it is collapsed on however long the park, 100 years or however long the park's been there. A lot of it is collapsed, but you can still see in a lot of places where that riprap's still in place. And what that does is it stops all residual gravel recruitment from natural bank erosion. So you don't get any gravel from bank erosion either. Understand, we're in an urban setting, we're in a park, and we can't have a lot of erosion. But the fact is that erosion is important too. It's all part of the natural process. And then the other thing is that with that stream being trapped in this riprap channel to keep from erosion, it then incisors, it just digs deeper because the stream can't spread out in the wintertime. Velocities just increase, so it flows faster, and instead of spreading out, it digs down. It channelizes itself. And here's a perfect example, and I can tell you, you may know this is below, just upstream from the playground by the maintenance shed, I call it, but there's a little bridge right there up from the little maintenance shed right there. And between the two, there's this little, I wish I would have got a little better picture of it, there's a little channel that goes up that I think that connects with the lower duck pond. But there's a little old cement creek channel there. And I can tell you, because I grew up in this town, my parents went to SOC at the time, SOU. And I played in that little creek, in that little channel that's gravel, that's concrete there. And the water level is dug down 4 feet from where it was when I was a boy, because that water was even with that thing. You could see, imagine that's where water used to run. So in the span of my lifetime, that channel has dug down 4 feet. So that's the incising I'm talking about, which even traps it in that incised ditch even more. This, you can see the video. I want to just talk about this. I get long-winded because some of these stories I'm passionate about. But when I play this video, you're going to see a fish here. And this is what started this whole thing for me, is that we did a little survey. Another was one of the guides that's on our board. We walked, and the day we walked, we saw this pair of fish spawning on that light spot. That's just decomposed granite. There's not even any gravel there. And this fish is doing all it can, this female, trying to find some gravel to bury her eggs. And there's none there. She's just got this much decomposed granite, and she's there digging. And anyway, I'll let you watch it. And there's the trout there, and you can see her doing her thing, and there's a big male that comes up. But it goes to show you how dated this is, how bad my phone was. This is 9 years ago. So it's a crappy old phone, a crappy video, but that's how long we've been doing this project. So anyway, enough of that. But that's what she had to work with, was that gravel. So then what I did is after we did that survey, we saw 5 reds that day. That was all. And this was maybe the best spot. And this was just absolutely futile what was going to happen here. So I went back to my house, and in front of my house, there's a drainage ditch that's got round river rock in it, drain rock. And I went back and I got 2 5-gallon buckets, and I went back that evening. And I went out there where she was. I wasn't going to screw anything up because there was nothing going on there that was going to work. And I dumped 2 buckets full of gravel. It was dark at that point, where I thought she kind of was. And I went back in the morning, and I fully figured that I scared her, which would have probably been a good thing, because maybe she'd have went and found someplace more suitable. And I went back in the morning, and sure enough, she had moved that whole pile of gravel and made a red with it. And here she is. And so then I went back, and you see the male. It's just unbelievable. And then so then I went back, and I went and got 2 more buckets, and you can see the upstream pile of gravel that I went in and put in again. And I went back and sit and watched. It scared them, but in a matter of 10 minutes, they were back then digging on the new pile of gravel I put in. That's how desperate she was. And that year, in our surveys, that was probably the only successful red that we saw. And you can hear me talking. I mean, that's one of the beauties of this. Is as much time I spent on the creek, if you knew how much interest, you see her digging, how much interest that the public takes in this is unbelievable. The key point in this is that, and just to touch on this, but it's very key, as you do go into your master plan on page 80, it talks about upstream of Reeder Dam that that you end up having about 2,000 cubic yards of gravel that moves up there each year, that moves into Reeder Reservoir. So you can imagine at any given point, your study, or the study that accompanies your master plan, says that you have 2,000 cubic yards of gravel that go down the stream at any given point. Now, a lot of that is decomposed granite, but you still have a lot of rock that's making its way down the stream. And all we're asking for is 20. So just a fraction of that. To give you some idea, that pile is 2,000. Now, in a year like this year when we don't have any water, there weren't 2,000 cubic yards of gravel that came down this creek because we didn't have enough water to move it. But you could imagine on one of our big water years how much gravel that can move. You saw the 4 feet of that creek and how much the channel had been dug out. The little pile there by the car, that's what we're hoping to put in the entire length of the park. So just a small fraction, but by strategically placing it, we can serve the purpose of getting, supplying the fish what they need. I already talked about us going in and how we're going to place the gravel. The timing of the placement, we need to do it early enough in the season that we get a high water so it can take the gravel where it needs to be. Any gravel that's going to wash away gets washed away, so the fish don't use gravel that then is going to get just washed away with the first high water. This is a pretty good representative of what 5 cubic yards is. So a quarter of what we want to put in, and why I put that up there is that's what we want to place in a couple parking lots. Like I say, 1 to 2 days. The main parking lot that we maybe, this upper one will probably put a 10 cubic yard pile, and this is right up at Granite Street Dam. It's that big granite pullout, that big gravel pullout. I think we can dump a pile of gravel there for 2 days and it won't disrupt a whole lot of it. And very rarely have I been there where that parking lot is full of cars anyway. Another strategic spot that will be great is at that upper outhouse again, right below the new house they're building. You have this area where you guys keep yard debris and stuff anyway. You can put that pile of gravel there for 2 days and it's out of everybody's way. It's not disrupting anything at all. And then once again, this is the parking lot by the maintenance buildings, that big parking lot that's just downstream from the big maintenance buildings. I was been looking at it, that down there in that shaded corner, far in the corner right there, you could pile up a pile of gravel that takes up one parking place. And like I say there for 1 to 2 days is, and we could even start here. So that pile of gravel, if we started there, that you dump a pile of gravel, it would be out that same day. An important slide. And like I say, I've already talked about, we've done a lot of work over 9 years, really have. And it's time, we've started a foundation, everything's above board now, and we want to do this, and we want to make a strategic plan. We want this to be all above board, and we want to work with a partnership with you guys so we can do this into the future. But telling the post story of all the under the radar stuff is really, really important, because it really proves what we've been doing works. These are red counts, which is where they fish for a number of years. Now, some of the back years like that, they kind of miss some years and whatnot, but you get the general trend. We started this in 2018 is when we started the gravel stuff. By 2020, we were full on, had 40 sites. And so fish are on 4-year cycles. So you can already see by 2024, now we're up to 42 reds, 42 spawning sites. This year, we had 56. From their high in 2013 was 30. Like I say, it's kind of neat, because 2018 was the year that I showed you that fish, where we did the surveys ourselves, and we Rogue River Steelhead Alliance at that time, and we counted 5 reds, and it's amazing, ODF&W counted 5 reds too. So we're not far off. This, you probably have more now. I got this from Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. You guys have already made some major investments in the creek with some, with help with ODF&Ws. These are all projects you guys have already done to improve the health of, so you've already made some major investments with some dam removals and whatnot. I think another important point that I want to finish here with is just the fact that the first people we went and talked to was Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. Frank, he's the new regional manager, and his enthusiasm for the project was what really lit a fire for us. He's very enthusiastic. He sees the need for them, once again, like what we're proposing for you guys, for them to be able to just turn the reins over and go, really, you're going to go do this? You're going to pay for it? You're going to do the whole thing? Man, where do we sign? So ODF&W is totally on board with this. And like I say, on our board that's helped draft this proposal is Dan Van Dyke, who just retired as the regional manager. So you have ODF&W buying into this full well. All we're asking for you guys is just help, just your approval. Like I say, the only thing that I think we would come to Parks and ask for, and it's not gonna be a make or break issue with this. It's not gonna decide whether we do it or not. It would be really, really helpful if you did. Is that if for a day, or maybe even just part of the day, to get some gravel moved around, if we could have one of your maintenance people with one of your little maintenance vehicles help move some gravel around for a day, that would expedite the process a lot. It's been done with wheelbarrows up to this point. It can be done. We're going to get a group of volunteers, and I have a lot of people excited about doing it, so it can be done with wheelbarrows if that need be. But if we were able to, for some reason, be able to get a maintenance person to have a little trailer to haul gravel around and dump them out in strategic spots, boy, they would expedite the process a lot. So that's all we would be asking for you guys, other than just a signature to sign off on this for us. So I think at that, I'll leave it at that and answer some questions.
Okay, thank you. That was very informative. I just want a couple questions for staff. Is there anything formal that has to happen to make this, liability issues? I'm talking to our assistant city attorney here mostly. Just to be sure that if we were to, I'm not sure what support looks like at this point. I would sign off on what?
Scott and 3RC will go through the planning process for the planning department, so they'll have to do permits and things like that. So the permitting part will be covered. And then if you all make a motion tonight to approve the project, I don't know liability-wise if we need to do anything more than that.
No, I don't think so. I think usually what's built into the permitting is the liability.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll essentially be the city's checks and balances.
Okay, so this isn't a contracting situation, it's not?
Well, is there money involved? I heard it was.
Well, you guys aren't paying anything.
Yeah.
You're not doing nothing. It'll be money out of our pocket. But once again, just to the simplicity of the project, I already have one of the gravel operations that's going to donate part of the gravel. Well, let's pay for a little bit of it, but the gravel is going to be really cheap. This is a project, wham, bam, we can go in and get it done. It's going to be a $2,000 project for us is all. So, and we're going to pay for all of it.
I like what I'm hearing. I just want to be sure we don't overlook something. So we have maybe in kind, we could help with some labor. I'm just curious, so if we have to do, what would the motion look like this evening if we decided to go to action, is my point. What are we approving?
So the motion is actually in the.
I just, yeah, I read it again. I forgot my packet.
The motion is actually in the packet, and it says, move to approve the privately funded Ashland Creek Fish Rehabilitation Project executed by 3RC pending all permits are received from the City of Ashland and Department of State Lands, with a review scheduled for fall of 2027 and fall of 2030.
Okay, that's pretty comprehensive, and legal, we're okay with that?
Yeah, and then, and any public contracting, this will kind of be step one, and then as it goes through the rest of the planning action, we'll connect with staff further, if there is any contracting that makes sense.
Okay, I just wanted to understand the endpoint, but we're not there yet. So first, we'll have some questions.
Can I add to that all? Is this,
sure.
our thought process when we went into this, one, we approached ODF&W first. I really felt this was a non-starter if you don't have ODF&W on board. So we went to Frank and got their approval first. From there, we thought the next non-starter was you guys. And so then we approached you. I already reached out to DSL. And that's just I don't want to say there's been anything in stone there. That's just been a conversation has started, but that's where we go from here is the planning department. Rachel's already been nice enough to start the process that much, but that's the direction. From here, we go to planning department and DSL.
Okay, so I'm going to open the floor now to the commissioners to ask questions or basically question time. And then if we're going to proceed, we'll have a motion and then we'll have a deliberation. Commissioner Long.
Yes, I have another question for our staff. Is this mic working?
I think so.
That is, what we're assuming, that staff has been talking about this, so I hear any concerns that staff might have had with the project.
Yeah, so I've met with Scott on multiple occasions to walk and talk through the project, and we've talked with our parks manager about the project as well. So on this end, and I've also spoken with planning department as well, and I feel comfortable moving this project forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Adams.
I don't know what's going on with the mics.
Yeah, we had issues last night too. It's not just you guys.
Well, I'll speak loud just in case it's not.
Here you go.
Scott, thank you for your presentation. Your enthusiasm for this is contagious. I don't really have any concerns with the project as presented. I think it's going to be good for the fish. Clearly, I think it will be. You've made it a no-brainer from a financial perspective, so that's all great. So I got to ask you more of a theoretical question. Thinking about the larger issue, and the consultants for the Lithia Park Master Plan had talked about the idea of removing the dam, which is fraught for a variety of reasons. The swimming hole above it is a beloved community resource. Now, speaking of sediments moving and things changing through time. That reservoir is getting shallower every year. The shallow part of it is expanding every year. We talk about being here as kids. I can remember even beyond my childhood here, when that opened up for swimming, people jumping off a rope swing into water that's now about 2 feet deep. And I think about that a lot, because shallow water, of course, is warm water. Warm water isn't good for fish. Short of removing that dam, what recommendations as a fish guy would you make? This is outside of the that you're presenting to us, but as a fish guy, what recommendations would you make vis-a-vis the reservoir, the swimming reservoir, to us as commissioners?
Yeah, to speak exactly on that, I mean, I'm probably not the guy, but just my thoughts on it. One, within your master plan, I know that one of the ideas is to actually, when they do have to clean out reader, which they do have to do because you need to be able to hold so much water, right? Because that is a reservoir. And so I know that one of the things that they were tossing around is that some of the sediment that they would remove from reader, because they don't flush it anymore, they used to flush it and it choked the stream with DG, and but is to maybe use some of that gravel then down for gravel augmentation in the stream. So I know that they consider that up top. Speaking to the Granite Street Dam, yeah, for me as a fish person, I that heats up so much, and it's all surface flow, and you probably have, like I say, the coldest water. That water, cold water, is so important for Bear Creek, because Bear Creek runs warm coming out of Immigrant Lake, and all, I mean, it's just a warm creek, and it used to be a real summer refuge for a fish that would migrate up. And so having that water as cold as you can, we're going to get really off topic, but I would love it if you could keep that, if you could get that back deeper, but that's going to be something we don't want to get involved in. But if you were to go in and remove some of that the same way they maybe do up at Reeder, it would be great for the fish. There's all kinds of issues. Like I say, I have some people on the board with the Freshwater Trust, so I don't want to but they help mitigate the temperature credits for the water treatment plant, so they're able to heat the water up. And once again, from a fish person, it drives me crazy. He's one of my good clients, and we go round and around the boat about it because he helped make that deal. But yeah, that would help if you were able to remove some of that sediment. It would deepen the water, and it would definitely keep things cooler, which would not only help Ashland Creek, it would help Bear Creek a lot. I think we all know that dam's coming out at some point. I mean, it's an old dam. I mean, it's structurally, it's not going to be there forever. We're dealing that with a Winchester Dam in the north right now. There's going to come a point in time where that dam comes out. So this isn't going to be something that's going to have to go on for the next 100 years, because that dam won't be there 100 years from now. But in the meantime, I think if you kept it flushed, it would definitely help the fish.
I think we're getting to the point where it probably actually help the swimmers too.
Yeah.
In the short term.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point about
Yeah.
the longevity of the dam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'd just like to say I'm excited about this. I had the opportunity to meet with Scott and Brian Soul about 2.5 months ago. They were excited about trying to bring this idea to us. It fits perfectly into our master plan, and for those of us that worked on that master plan. And I mean, there's a lot of things that in that plan that we could be doing for the creek. And this is probably the easiest one, but it might be one of the better ideas to really help the fish. And I'm prepared to make a motion on this tonight if
Anybody
when
else
we get done with
have a
discussion.
question or comment before we do that?
Can I
Okay.
make one more point? Just because I am happy and passionate about this, to your point. You're not going to find a better project if you build it, they will come project, bang for your buck project than this. It is unbelievable. That stat I showed you with the bar graph, it's unbelievable how successful this has been on a smaller scale to come in and get that done. And I know with the master plan, my concern as a fish person, that's a 50-year plan? I think, whatever. Who knows when this happens, when it gets around to it. I know it's something you have to do in the next whatever, but what the fish are facing climate change right now, and the quicker we can get this done, these fish can need as big a hand as they can. So once again, this will expedite it too, which will help the fish in a time where they really need it. Anyway.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gardner, go ahead and make your motion.
Okay, and I don't know how appropriate it would be, but I would like to add something in there that we would assist this project to help it move quicker. We being
Talking about
parks,
staff,
staff,
like with the gravel assist and things
yeah,
like
like
that.
helping move gravel around. But
Commissioner Lunt?
I think that's already been inferred from the presentation when it talked about, using some of the parks equipment. But I think the simplest way would just say that the motion supported in kind effort from the parks department.
to add that to the motion? Okay, then I'd like to make a motion Move to approve the privately funded Ashland Creek Fish Rehabilitation Project executed by 3RC pending all permits are received from the City of Ashland and Department of State Lands, DSL, with reviews scheduled for fall 2027 through fall 2030, and that park staff would assist in this project.
I'll second.
Any, Commissioner Gardner, would you like to speak to your motion?
Not really, just like I said, I think it's a great first step, and it's a, as Scott said, it's an easy one to meet at least one of our goals of the Lithia Park Master Plan, so I'm all for it.
Commissioner Adams?
I've got nothing to add. Anything I said would diminish the wonderful presentation that Scott gave us. I think it's great.
I'll just add that this is a great project. I love it. I fly fish too. And this is just another example of partnering as the way forward. We can't do everything ourselves, and to have somebody come in and offer to partner with us is fabulous, and we want to encourage that.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner?
Yes,
All yes, motion passes.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Rachel, she's been amazing. She's been amazing. She really has. She's been so helpful.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, she's been, I mean, I'll tell you what, you email her and it's,
We like that kind of feedback.
I know. It's very well deserved, so thank you very much.
There we go. Okay, that's a nice way to start business this evening. The second item is an update on a permanent director hiring, and we have in the House Deputy City Manager Jordan Brooklyn, who's going to explain the city manager office's view of things.
Oh, hopefully just the facts. So I decided, oh, these are working when they're red. Okay. Good evening, Parks Commission. So at that last Saturday strategic planning session, my takeaway and understanding is that the Parks Commission was wanting to talk about the hiring process for the permanent director. And so today's presentation is my goal to outline what is the typical process or at least order of events that I have experienced with executive director hirings, and then to have a chance for you all to then discuss, is this the process you want to follow? Is this the timeline that you expect? And get into those kind of details.
I just need to sneak by you and grab this.
Oh, is that?
Sorry, it's his.
And I was just getting into my flow too. Sorry. Thanks. So the hiring of the Parks Director, I'm going to scoot over, is outlined loosely, I shouldn't say loosely, is outlined briefly in AMC. And what that ordinance really says is Parks Commission, you all are responsible for hiring a Parks Director through an outside firm or through a direct appointment. The city manager provides input on job description. Sorry, you guys, I was just hanging with a toddler and my speech has gotten less professional the farther the evening has come on. Job description, applications, and participates at the department head level of interviews. And then ultimately, city manager has contract signing authority. And then as a reminder, if you all want to meet in executive session during this process to consider who you want to hire, there are certain requirements we have to meet to do that. And we'll get to those in the steps in the process that we're required to have. So over here on the yellow on the left is kind of the steps needed for doing an executive director level hiring. And then as you guys see in the columns is kind of where I typically see responsibilities fall for those certain steps. So the first step is to make sure we have hiring standards, criteria, and policy directives. This is a state requirement for us to be able to meet an executive session. A job description that is discussed at a public meeting. Then to work to create the ideal candidate profile so the recruiter know what type of candidate they should be going after and really designing the interview process for. We then have to adopt hiring procedures in a public meeting that specifies how this hiring process will work. We must go through the advertising process and the recruiting process to get a good candidate pool. Hopefully the recruitment firm can do candidate screening, can coordinate all of the interview process, do the background and references, and ultimately selection is in the hands of the Park Commission, and then contract negotiations. The one step that's not in here because I couldn't get it to aesthetically fit is we're going to have to choose a recruitment firm, and we'll get to that in 2 slides. But any questions about these kind of steps in order? Yes.
Well, maybe it is working this time, I don't know. So it seems like as we've hired directors, I haven't, but as directors have been hired in the past, that several of the preliminary steps, so the job description, the ideal candidate profile, hiring procedures, all of that, hiring standards, criteria, policy, directions, all that should be in place already. And it seems like maybe we would want to review and see if any tweaks made sense, but it seems like the foundation of that ought to be in existence. Am I wrong somehow?
Job description, hiring standards, criteria, policy directives, we have a starting place for those. I always recommend reviewing them and making tweaks prior to any significant hiring, especially because we've made some major changes to the job description since it last went out. Those were ones that we required to discuss and have available for public comment in a meeting. That's part of the executive session requirement. The ideal candidate profile, that one I always recommend to do it from scratch, because that's really who you all as a body are looking for, what are their values, types, etc. We may have one from the last recruitment. I was not easily findable in our folder system when I was preparing these slides today. But that's usually a process you do with your recruitment firm, because it's really a tool for them to A, attract candidates, and then B, vet them to make sure that you guys are getting a candidate as close to that ideal as possible. But I will say, yes, the standards in the job description we have a starting block for.
Commissioner Lunt?
Yes, I had a question, a couple questions. My first is, can you define what city staff, what do you mean by that?
Like we would be involved in helping get you guys the materials you need, making edits. If you want the recruitment firm to do it, fabulous. I'm happy to step city staff away.
No, that's not my question.
Oh.
City staff is some subset of the city. Who does it refer to?
Yeah. In this scenario, and to be quite blunt, I would like to preserve Rachel as a potential candidate for the permanent role. We'll be leaving park staff out of it, and we'll be coming from the city manager's office or the HR office to help support this process so that she doesn't have a potential unfair advantage in that process.
Okay, thanks. Then my other question is regarding the interviews. It shows a subset. I think in the past, all commissioners were involved in the interviews. Mm-hmm. And are you suggesting something different this time?
You know, it's totally up to you, and this is typically, once you select a recruitment firm, you will work with them to design the exact process. What I have seen in my experience in other jurisdictions is, you know, there's typically a minimum of 3 rounds of interviews. So there's the first screening round, which is typically a subset of the elected body. You know, there's tends to be a department head or a colleague interview set, and then a final round of interviews, which is done with the whole body. And that is the one that typically occurs in executive session, if we have met all the criteria, and is the smaller subset. Most often that's done because of coordinating people's schedules, but once you get a recruitment firm on board, you can work with them on the exact process you want to have.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. These are my common sense rough estimates of time. By no means are they sticking, flexible, etc. This is really my experiencing just knowing the capacity we have and the requirements needed. Hiring standards, criteria, policy directives, and job description. Those have to be at a public notice meeting where you guys can make a motion. So the soonest that could happen would be June. So that's a 30-day period right there. Selection of a recruitment firm. We are going to have to go out for bids. This is a recruitment firm that'll really be working for all of you, so the Park Commission should be involved in selecting which recruitment firm you use. That typically takes a 45 to 60-day process from, going out and asking for bids to signing the final contract. And then from there, you'll start working with the recruitment firm on the profile, hiring procedures, etc. Once that's done, it's typically a 4 to 5 month process. Because it's an executive director level position, I think you want to advertise it for a minimum of 1 month to allow time to really recruit a strong candidate pool. Interviews can often take up to a month, particularly depending on how many you want to do. And then really depends on scheduling and who's involved with how long this process takes. Contract negotiations, once you select a final candidate, those are typically a minimum of 1 month, as just negotiating back and forth and working. My experience is most often with the legal department, but I don't know the details of that parks director role, if that's with city manager's office and the parks chair, or with the legal. But that process typically takes about a month, and there's typically another month until they start the job, depending on when they give notice to their last. So it is a long process. I would probably put a minimum of 6 months, likely potentially to 8 months. You have the option to speed it up with the recruiter. The one thing I just recommend with that option is just it'll be more difficult to fully vet someone the less time you have. Oh,
Before
any
you go
questions there?
on,
Yeah.
can you use this same schema here to talk about what it would take to get to the point where we would appoint an interim?
You could, if you had a candidate already in mind, we could do it at the next meeting. If you wanted to do a hiring process for that interim, it would be closer to a 30 to 60 day, because we'd post the position, go through it, and typically interims, you only go through 1 round of interviews. So it's a different timeline and different goal with having that level of person in place.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so the selection of a recruitment firm. So due to the likely dollar value of a recruitment firm, I'm estimating it'll probably be the $30,000 range for a position at this level. Will require at least 3 competitive bids per our procurement rules. That can be done by reaching directly to specific firms and asking them to bid, or it could be done by just posting a request for proposals that anyone can respond to. Typically, we want to have that bidding window open for a minimum of 10 days. I believe our requirement is 7 days. And then, I would really look to the Park Commission, though, if you wanted to give it to staff, to select which of the firms you wanted to work with. So that would require you all to set up an interview with folks or look at their resume packets and make a decision about who you wanted to contract with. Recruitment firm selection questions?
Do you being HR, city manager's office, have resources that would isolate recruiting firms that would be particularly good at recruiting parks directors?
You know what? I, having never recruited a parks director, cannot say specifically that I do. I do know of some common names that are typically Northern California, Southern Oregon recruiting firms. I know there are some recruiting firms that have chosen to walk away from city contracts, and so I don't know of their interest to engage again with us. If you all decided to do the 3 competitive bids, what I would likely do is start reaching out to colleagues in other cities and just asking who they worked with, did they like them, did they not, and go that route. Yeah.
Thank you.
So just some things, you don't have to answer these questions tonight, but some things that I will ask you about as you engage in this process is, does that typical hiring process, that yellow step-by-step, make sense, feel good? Do you want to add anything, take away anything? If you want to move forward, when would you like to start this hiring process? And then how would you like to approach selecting a recruitment firm?
I want to start the discussion with this idea. it won't surprise most of you, that what we have now is an acting director who's a city employee and does not report to us. We do not have review prerogatives there. With an interim director, we would have a contract. We would do a contract, which we don't have the interim director job description yet, but it would have to reflect that, and the job description needs to reflect the wording in the ordinance. And I think you have mentioned to me in the past that perhaps the consulting firm that did the studies did a draft of one, or, okay. So that's another starting point. And what I'm going to argue is that this is a long time, and to do this right, we need to take that much time. One of my concerns, and I've heard it from others, is that my term I use is agency. We don't have our agency in place to actualize our policies by directing staff. And so if we were to select an interim director in the short term, this is for my colleagues, stop me, or when I'm done, tell me if I have things wrong. Then we would have a contract. This interim director would, in fact, report to the commission. We would have the evaluation authority, which is what makes that reporting important. And it could be 6 months, a year, any number of years, any number of time frames for that contract. But that is a substantive change from what we have today. So if it's our concern that we don't have somebody reporting to us, which is typically what our director has done in the past, then the interim, which could be done quickly, as early as June, certainly July, would bring the director back into a more normal relationship. An interim director would have a more normal relationship with the commission than the acting director does today. So I just want to throw that out as one possibility in addition to a full-blown go-outside process, which is going to take time, and we have to do it very deliberately and take that time. It's a very important decision. And we need to get it right this time. Okay, floor's open to other commissioners. Commissioner Lunt.
Well, just in response, that's an interesting, and you make a cogent argument why that would make sense. I see that being a totally separate issue from the recruitment of a permanent director. So doing one does not preclude the other in either way. So I just don't want us to get off track here. I think I think from my perspective, I think it's important we get a permanent director as soon as possible. And but again, as soon as possible is not going to be overnight, and so it may make a lot of sense to have a more traditional and clear relationship with our acting director than what we currently have.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying my muddle. I agree completely. There are two different decisions, and they're not dependent upon one another. Commissioner Weiner.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. And unfortunately, I think your timeline's pretty accurate. I wish it weren't. In response to when do we want to start the process, 2 months ago would be great. But here we are today. I think that's exactly right what Commissioner Lalonde was saying, that these are two separate things. I think it's important that we get started on this, though, as soon as we can to start moving these processes forward, which means getting the standards in front of the commission to review. We need to have some sessions to really knock it about and see whether or not we want to make any tweaks or changes to them, so that we can actually start moving things forward. And I want and I'm hoping you can clarify for me, it wasn't clear whether you were saying sort of we as a commission or or whether the city staff would sort of do some of that outreach and trying to corral some potential recruitment firms.
I think, oh, I was green for a second, I got excited. When it comes to selection of recruitment firms, unfortunately, the capacity you guys have in this moment of time is me. And so if the element of the game is speed, I would look to the commission to submit to me some recruitment firms that you would like us to invite to submit a proposal, would be probably the fastest way. If you would like me to do some legwork to figure out which recruitment firms are likely the best to go after, it's going to take me probably a month of time, just given the other things on my plate. Third option could be posting an RFP, a request for a proposal, and just letting whoever wants to bid. You know, the dice roll of that one is that you aren't for sure going to get bids from firms that you know you potentially want to work with.
Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Chair. Two things. In the material that you sent out to us earlier today, there's actually two job descriptions that are similar. So we have all that groundwork, but you're saying that these don't necessarily apply to the current situation? Is that what you're saying?
So the 2024 job description, which was used in 2024,
Yeah.
I do think is in conflict with the current ordinance. The other version of the job description that I gave you all is from our class comp consultant, who reworked all of our job descriptions to be in a similar format and to be a little bit more modern. I have not reviewed that new job description in detail enough to make sure it fits with our ordinance. I'll probably look to legal to help with that. And then B, to see where there's changes that the city manager's office would recommend to help better align it for success with our overall city dynamics. So I would like a chance to look at or have Sabrina look at that new job description. That is the one I would recommend working off of rather than the 2024. It does have to be discussed at a public meeting and allow the chance for the public to make comment on it for it to officially count for this recruitment process.
I see Commissioner Lant. Oh, you follow up? Yeah.
Follow up?
Go ahead.
So basically, the job description discussion is really the first thing we would have to do as a commission to go go out solicit a new director. The other thing I would just like to say real quick is that if we have a situation where we think we have an interim director person that would help us, I believe that the two things work independently as well, and we should pursue both of them quickly
Okay.
to buy some time for the full-blown hire and realign ourselves with an interim as opposed to an acting director. Thank you.
So is it realistic that we could do this public meeting regarding the both of the job descriptions, the interim and the permanent, which are different,
Yeah. I'm going to defer to Carmel very quickly because I know she has a comment and then I'm happy to share my thoughts.
on June 10th? Is that realistic?
Yeah, so just, I think one thing that can be helpful to orient yourselves with is like how to think about the job description. So ideally with a job description is you really, to the extent possible, you really want to try and match like what the person's doing with, like you want to match the description with really what they're doing. And so, and I know that's like I know that process is something that staff has worked really hard, actually quite hard the last couple of months since my presentation at Life for example, like working really well with Public Works, like that has gone very smoothly. You know, another thing that came up recently was like our fleet, like how much does city is responsible for, like so there are a few areas that would be really good to have clarity for what a parks director does, or really something that like is a city like facilities thing, or maybe a fleet thing. And I think by narrowing down and having clarity in really what the parks director does, I think it can help the firm well, for one, it can be really clear for the city's expectations for your employee, what their expectations are. And then it can also be helpful for the recruiting firm to be really clear in who they are recruiting for. And are you recruiting someone who has just parks experience, or someone who has experience with like broader management? Because maybe you'll be able to recruit someone for bucket A, but not necessarily a Venn diagram for bucket A and B and C. And so I just mentioned that because I also haven't had I hadn't had time to look at the comp and class job description for the parks director, but that'll be something to consider going forward. And I don't think that changes the nature of the service to the Parks Commission or really the public. I think it's kind of more something that's helps everyone all around. So that's kind of one, and I think that'll take a little bit of time. It'll also take some updating. And then another reason to highlight the other just consideration to highlight is for executive session. When you meet in executive session, there are basically prerequisites. If you want to talk about that, if you want to talk about an employee hire in executive session, there are a number of prerequisites. So that's just kind of a bucket. You can talk about it in public like we're doing now, and if it's publicly noticed, then no problem. But if we want to go in executive session, then we got to do some prerequisites.
I just want to go back to the question,
Yeah,
which
thank
was,
you.
we are 30 days up on this timeline. Is that realistic, that we could have this review of, say, the comp people draft of our director's job description ready to discuss in public? And I know that you're shorthanded over there.
Yeah. I think we can discuss the job description. I will say the only thing that I'm thinking about is, am I going to be in town on June 10th? So I will look at my calendar after this meeting and confirm it with Rachel.
Even if it's just a draft.
Yeah, we could definitely have a draft in front of y'all by June 10th, whether I'm here or not, too.
I think I would like to put that on the agenda for June 10th, and and have something to talk about. I just don't want to have this general discussion again.
Yeah, and you guys have the only drafts that we currently have. Just please work off it, but reminder, serial meeting. So if you have any notes or thoughts you want to share, email me directly rather than the Park Commission as a whole.
Right. Commissioner Weiner and then Commissioner Long. Did you have your hand up? No? My peripheral vision, you did? Okay, well,
Go ahead. I'll grab it.
that's fine. Either one.
Thank you. A question back to, you kind of put it as an either or. Either we could do the recruiters via bid, or commissioners could provide consultants. And but it seems to me that it might make more sense instead of either or, to do both. And if we can provide enough names to give a reasonable pool, then we're there.
With that route? Oh, there we go. Okay. With that route, I would just have our procurement staff post the RFP and share with you all the link. And then if you come across a recruitment firm you like, I just have you email them that link to respond.
One more down there, and then,
A follow-up.
then Commissioner Weiner.
But if there were, if internally we had come up with enough names, even if you posted it, you could just do the minimum post time and close it and move forward, could you not?
Yes. What I would do is if we were doing the post for the RFP, just because of my own capacity issues, I would not also personally reach out on my own to ask them to apply. I would ask you all to do that part. Yeah.
Maybe I misunderstood, or maybe I'm just misinterpreting this, but it seems to me that if we have a vested interest and a strong concern as commissioners as to what those job descriptions would be, it feels like we need to be doing that reviewing and tweaking those rather than waiting to get something back from staff that they've done. That seems like that's our job, and probably with some help post hoc to format it so it's not, written poorly, and make sure it aligns, but it feels like that's our job.
That was one of the reasons I supplied it to you all via email so that you guys could ruminate on it and work it.
Right, we just need advice to be sure that we're on the right track when we could get way off track if we're just drafting it ourselves. So I'd like, it needs review. We could certainly, each individuals, because we're not meeting between now and the 10th, or we can delay the 10th discussion, but I don't want to. So, point taken. And I think, is there should we send our ideas to Carmel or to you?
You should probably send them to me.
Okay. Yes.
If we think this is important and we want to move this forward, is there a possibility of doing another meeting that I guess it would have to, I don't know, would it have to be public? I don't know how we would do it. It feels like getting together, hashing it out, figuring out some stuff is the way to go. I'd be willing to get together sooner so we can move this process forward. I think doing it in isolation will lead to a mishmash of garbage.
It could. We have a joint session on the 3rd, which would be when we would have had a study session. We could certainly schedule a special meeting in that general time frame, if we could find, get us all there. It could be late May. It's the holidays. It's hard to do. The 3rd is no good now, and that's a Wednesday, so we'd have to be an odd, an unusual day for us to get something in before the 10th of June. It's only 3 weeks away. So I think maybe that would be a little too intense, but to do something in 3 weeks and then follow up with it as quickly as we can. But I think the key here is that we all take a look. I agree with you completely. We all take a look at both of those, we'll call them templates for our new job description, and maybe send some suggestions on to Jordan, who just said that she was the one we should work with, not me, avoiding the public meeting thing. And then you could hopefully find a time to kind of consolidate that into some sort of a...
Yes,
I don't know, it's a tough call, tough ask, but...
and I will say Commissioner Gardner has had his hand up too.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I just wanted to say, I appreciate what Commissioner Weiner is driving at, but my concern with the ordinance and how it overlays with the job description, I think it's imperative that legal go through and update whatever areas are, I want to use the right term, not muddled now, but that are somewhat convoluted in that don't really apply, or to make sure that we're all on the same page when we're trying to drill down on what's the important parts of the job, to make sure we have the terminology correct and we understand, where the issues are. I mean, that's kind of what got us in trouble before, is where are the issues regarding the ordinance? I don't know, I think that needs to happen first.
No, me. Just have the question. Yeah, no, yeah, just a question.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because it sounds like there's some inconsistencies potentially with the way the previous stuff was written, that council may be able to say, yeah, this is, that is, and if that could get to us as part of the preliminary process for us to start thinking it through, that makes good sense to me.
But I think that happens on June 10th, where we actually have the conversation out loud with the public, with whatever document we have, and then we can begin to shape anything we want to have happen in it, and then it goes into the legal hopper to be sure what we're shaping works. The process is,
Yeah, from my
I'm confused about the
viewpoint,
process. Yeah.
my viewpoint, either way works. I'm just here to make sure that A, we talk about it in a public meeting, because that's a requirement, and then B, the final job description, whatever it is, does match what's allowable per our code.
Okay. Commissioner Adams.
The risk of pointing out something that everybody else is already thinking about, I just want to do a little math with the group here, that if there are 7 months worth of meetings remaining in this year, the new council or the new commission will come in after those 7 meetings. And 3 positions are up this year. So we could, at least in theory, have a new majority on the commission. And we're talking about a process that could take 6 to 8 months is what I heard, possibly longer if any step gets delayed. So I think we just have to keep that in the back of our minds. And it may be that what we're doing as a commission is teeing up the next commission to do that, maybe that final step of interviews. And I certainly wouldn't mind having a hand in the selection, but if I don't continue into the next term, I don't think it would be inappropriate for the next term to choose the next commission to choose the director that they will be working with.
Commissioner Lott.
Yes, you're right. I was thinking about that, Commissioner Adams. And I guess the reason I didn't say anything is I think it's just too long to wait the process. So I'm of the mind of just moving forward and if we can get all the way there, great. If we can't, so be it. The next commission will take care of it. But I still think at this point we should be moving forward in an expedient fashion. And if that's the case, we should be voting on June 10th on a job description. In order to do that, I think we should do what Commissioner Gardner said, which is to get from legal within a week or so the comments on what's problematic with the current job description. And then I think there should be a subcommittee, and maybe it's just a couple commissioners, or maybe it's a couple commissioners plus legal, and that works on this, and that and then they are done, say, a week before our June 10th meeting, and then the draft gets circulated to everyone at that point, so that we come into the meeting with a fair bit of background, so we can because I don't want to be at as much as I like to wordsmith, I don't want to be part of the five of us wordsmithing a job description at a public meeting.
Yes, that's not the goal. And I think I should mention that I think Commissioner Gardner will be out of the country about 16 days during this period. So there are complications. Let's hear from Carmel and then back to Commissioner Adams.
Yeah, and just some follow-up for Commissioner Lon's comments. We can do that if you want to, if the body wanted to do kind of a small working session. Actually, the city council does it for when we update ordinance, or we have been. So we notice it, so anyone can show up. In that example, the entire body didn't want to, but there were, for example, like 3 council members who was like, I really want to be there. And so we did a small working session. It's open to the public. We post everything ahead of time. So you can do that if you want. And then we'll just have to be aware of timing because you have to post. I'm forgetting the date off the top of my head because Alyssa does all the posting, but we'll have 5 days, I think.
Parks posts 72 hours prior
Okay.
to meeting.
So anyway, so we'll just need some time for that as well. But we can do it.
And there couldn't be more than 2 of us or we'd have a quorum.
Yeah, then it would just be basically just be a regular meeting.
Right.
And then for that, and I will just say, I can certainly be there, but it is helpful for me also to work with management because they are in like the weeds with operations. And so even for the job description, I would work closely with management office, like, hey, your fleet, like as an example.
Right. Commissioner Adams?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to be clear, I agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Lawton and was not trying to say that we should postpone this whole process until the new year. I agree. Let's move forward wholeheartedly. If we're ahead of schedule, great. We'll be the group to make that decision. And if not, we'll do as much as we can to set up the next group. Yeah, I agree.
Well, are you suggesting that this work group could actually occur within a couple of weeks?
I will not
We
be
only
able to
have 3
attend,
weeks. We
but
only
you
have-
guys can have it without me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And the 3 weeks, can you remind me, is because you wanted it before what again?
We would like to discuss it in fairly good form on June 10th.
Okay, basically, okay, before your next regular.
So we would need to have it
meeting.
a
Okay.
week before that, so we could get it into the packet,
Yeah. Oh,
which means it'd have to happen pretty soon.
okay.
So I think right now, you can't leave that one as fuzzy as it is right now. We got to set that up. Now,
I mean, it's not just about wordsmithing a job description. It's that the job description like means something. It means it. Not to put it bluntly, but like we need to make sure that what we're putting out there is what it is.
Is the
And so
job.
that's why it's a little bit bigger than me just like looking something over.
No,
Is
it's not that
where,
simple.
To speak frankly, kind of where I'm hemming and hawing a little bit.
So I can go back to my original question, is it realistic to have this thing ready in 3 weeks? And have a good product. I don't want to rush it just for an arbitrary deadline, but we don't meet weekly. And so we want to keep moving somehow.
I don't feel comfortable answering right now. I feel like it would be better to get back and then maybe follow up in an email.
That's fair.
Okay.
And then we can,
But I hear what you're saying.
okay, it's, we're just balancing here. We want to expedite, but we don't want to go so fast that we don't do a good job.
If I may make a recommendation? Oh,
Yes. Well, why don't you make your a comment, and then we'll get the recommendation.
I was just going to say, I think the thought was not so much that you review the whole thing and have it all polished up or dialed in or whatever, but really to say, this doesn't align, this doesn't align, this doesn't align. Sort of the stuff you were alluding to at the joint session I wasn't able to attend. There was a handful of things that people were saying, well, these don't line up. And if you could catch those, then we can eliminate those as we do our work. I don't think the request is that you review the whole thing and we just, so, but maybe I'm wrong.
One more here, and then,
I can wait.
okay.
I recommend you all as individuals review the job description as I emailed it to you, the one that's the class and comp one. Jot down your notes, give your comments on it, send it to me. During the same period, Carmel and I can meet and we can review it more through the lens of, does it agree with the ordinance? Does it not? As well as where we're seeing operational changes. I don't think they have to happen one before the other. Primarily, the reason why I say match with our ordinance is, for example, the 2024 job description says the Parks Director will hire and fire Parks employees. That is no longer the scenario per our ordinance. It is now our city manager who is the hiring authority, though she'll always act on the recommendation of the Parks Director. That's the kind of thing that we just need to double check and make sure is in the new version. So I would recommend, you all do individual comments, send them my way. I'll work with Carmel on the legal part. And I can merge everything into one master document that has highlighted the changes from the original that you all will be working off of. If it looks super major, we can reach out to the chair to discuss if there should be a separate work session to really review. If it's looking pretty minor, then we can just go ahead to the June 10th meeting without that additional.
I like that scenario. So that means that our job is to take a look at both of these and
I recommend ignore 2024.
Ignore, yeah, that's where I'm at too. Throw 2024
I apologize for
out,
adding additional paperwork.
and look at the other one. That's where the comments are to you. You get with legal, and we have something to discuss in public. And maybe it'll be, this goes to staff here, it'll probably be information, possible action. Okay, Rachel, on that one. And it's, a review of the director job description. Commissioner Lund.
I think I'd like one additional step, and I'm not sure how that will work time-wise, but I would like the executive committee to review this before it comes to the full commission. That gives an opportunity to hopefully get it a little more ripe for a decision.
Can I
Yes.
seek clarification? Is executive committee chair and vice chair? Thank you.
Yeah, that's an ad hoc term we dreamt up. So that would be Commissioner Gardner and me, and we would do that in early June. Early June, probably about the time of the joint meeting, so there'd be time to make any changes necessary before it went in the packet, basically. Okay? You okay with that, Mike? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I think we discussed this. Yes, sir.
We've discussed it. Do we need any kind of a motion?
Not on this, I don't think, no.
Okay.
Now that's, with any luck at all, we can vote on this in 3 weeks. That would be a nice step forward, Commissioner Adams.
Do we want to do any more discussion about the other topic that came up, which was the
interim
director? Because it sounds like that's something that we want to make happen even more expeditiously, perhaps, than this process.
Right, definitely more expeditiously. As early as June 10th, it could happen and we can't have an executive session about it.
Unless we do the 4-step requirements to have an executive session, which I would recommend is potentially overkill.
Overkill,
Well,
okay.
Much more time. I should say, much more time. I do want to clarify, if you are interested in going in the interim director route, I would recommend waiting until the job description is finalized. Because, you know, an interim, you want to be acting under the same job description you expect of a parks director.
Okay, so that would be, well, no, probably July. Let's put that one on the look ahead for July. The interim director
Can,
action.
can we lay out I don't really know what those 4 steps are.
Yeah. So the public body has to advertise the vacancy, adopt regular hiring procedures. For regular hiring procedures, when I've looked into this last, there's not much further instruction for what that means, so I think you can read it pretty broadly. Provide the public opportunity to comment, so you just have to make sure there's a public hearing. And then that the governing body has adopted hiring standards, criteria, and policy directives in meetings open to the public, in which the public also had the ability to comment. And so hiring standards, and those also can be, well, yeah.
Okay.
So those are what is required if we want to have an executive session to hire and to appoint.
To talk in executive.
You got to do all that if we want to talk in executive session, but if we choose not to talk in executive session, we can do the hiring or do appointing without, but all that needs to, in order.
To do
Thank
an
you.
executive session, we can't take action, but we can discuss details that we don't want to discuss in public, then come out and take action.
Yeah, that's right. So another layer to it, as Commissioner Bachman was saying, is that you can talk in executive session, and then there is another part of the statute that says any final action does have to be out in public.
Yeah. So we do a straw poll, and then we come out and take action by doing a real roll call. But we can't, no action can happen in an executive session on anything without airing it in public. Okay. And then you have to, before you can even have an executive session, to have grounds for an executive executive session, we have to meet these requirements. And I remember going through those steps last time we did this, now that you bring it up. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so now, and Rachel, as a interested party, is going to stay out of this. Okay. Other than put things on the agenda, which is fine, right? Okay. Okay, I think we're done.
And the one note I want to make, Rachel, for a future agenda, it will have to be a public hearing.
It's an actual public hearing.
An
I have
actual
to go
public
through the, I have to have the script then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A real public, because
Public hearing for the
you've not been in one yet.
interim director role?
I've seen
or
them
the-
done.
The job description. Oh, for the next meeting then for June. Okay.
Okay, thank you. That was very productive. And a lot of personal confusion cleared up. So that brings us to number 3, which was to update our 2026 Park Commission meeting schedule the rest of the year with a vote tonight, because there were some things happening after. Thank you, Jordan. Get some rest. One of the things that troubled me was that somehow I overlooked this, I guess, when we voted on this in last December, but was that we had these 2 study session not cancellations, but we weren't going to hold study sessions in July and August. And that seemed, at this time of our life cycle here, just not enough getting together and getting some business taken care of. So this is this is your recommendation.
Yeah, this is the proposed updated Park Commission meeting schedule for this year. So it does add back a study session in August. It changes, there was a meeting scheduled on a city-observed holiday, which is Veterans Day, on November 11th. So we made the change to combine, to have a business meeting on November 4th instead of two
So we have a joint
meetings.
meeting, and then the
And then
next
we
day
have a-
we have a business meeting. Okay.
Yeah, and then we did receive confirmation that the city manager's office, that there will be, at this point, we're going to move forward with the August 12th joint meeting with the city council. And it's up to the Parks Commission if you prefer to have a business meeting after the joint meeting on August 12th. So we can just leave that as
So
is.
it's sticking on August 12th. I think that one I'm presiding. The August meeting. Okay.
We are hosting that one, yes.
Commissioner Lunt.
Is the July 1st, is that a change too?
So the commission voted back in December of 2025 to have no study sessions in July or August. So we kept the summer break for the July 1st meeting to have no study session. We kept, that was something that was voted on, that the commission approved. So we left that in, and in talking with the executive team, added back the August study session.
But this says updated schedule, and it shows a July 1st study session.
It says no meeting, summer break, if you look on the very, yeah. Sorry.
You might want to, well, we're going to vote on this. We could change, you could drop that study session even title if we, in an emotion, if that's a sticking point. I was going to look at the calendar. I think it's just, yeah, that's the trouble. That's July 4th weekend, basically. July 4th is
July 4th is a Saturday this year.
Saturday. That's the Wednesday before.
My suggestion would be to leave it with no meeting on, for the study session on July 1st. It is a really busy time for our staff and our team
it's-
that week for
yeah.
the 4th of July festivities.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm glad we added one back, and we had to clarify that other joint session because we slipped a month on the one we're going to next month, and I thought they might want to move it out, and they didn't. Commissioner Gardner,
I'm prepared to make a motion.
please.
I move to accept the updated 2026 Park Commission meeting schedule as presented.
Second, Commissioner Lunt seconded. Any comments from either? Anybody else? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner, Commissioner Lunt.
You jumped in first, so you keep, yes,
Oh.
mine is yes as well. So all votes would be the same.
There were, I think, 5 yeses. Okay.
You spoke for him, he spoke for you.
I'm not sure that's, okay. Acting Director's Report.
Just a few updates. I'll try to make this quick. For parks and projects, East Main Park and the street improvements are out to bid. That closes on May 28th. There'll be more information coming after that. Also, the Hunter Park tennis courts are out to bid as well. That one closes on May 26th. So same week, we'll get more information out to you as we have it. As you can see, if you drive through Lithia Park, the Butler Protzi Fountain Project is well underway. And it's exciting to see. The ice rink cabling is being scheduled for late July at this point, with the contractor coming from the company XFS from Virginia. And then all of the other smaller improvements that we need to have done are going to be moving forward this summer as well. So we'll be ready to go for ice rink season this late fall. 2 new shower towers were installed at the Daniel Meyer Pool just in time for the opening summer. TID water should be hitting park locations soon. We haven't seen it yet, but soon-ish, we're starting to hear it starting to come through. And then we have 2 new park seasonals that have started and 4 more that will start within the next few weeks. We appreciate all the help we've been getting from HR on that. For programming and recreation, the digital guide is out for summer. The pool opens on June 3rd. Splash Pad is opening Memorial Day weekend. Hours will be 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. Bird Day is this Saturday at North Mountain Park from 8 a.m. to noon, and we're relying on our partners, KBO and the Audubon Society, to help partner for that event. Our bike swap that we held in April saw over 400 people attend, and we raised over $5,600 for the Pedal Power program that operates within the schools. 2 events were held recently on May 2nd and 3rd on a Saturday and Sunday. The Kids Jamboree at the Grove and the Children's Celebration of the Japanese Garden brought over 750 people out to those 2 events. The community center, I messed up on that bullet. Community center will be available for rental soon. The new doors, interior and exterior doors, are going in, my understanding is next week. Their city staff will be moving to city staff that is in the main hall of the building will be moving out to other locations. And then we will get a plan for opening that building as soon as possible, hopefully by early June-ish, but date coming soon. And then we have a golf course food concessionaire that will be under contract soon. And we are making some minor kitchen modifications to the kitchen and the sink prior to moving in of that group.
When will I be able to go over there and get something to eat?
Hopefully I'm hoping by mid-June.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to also bring up the miscellaneous fees and charges are going to council next Tuesday, the 19th. I worked with the city manager to update fees per the wider city policy. The fees as a whole for the city are being adjusted by the 3.1% March CPI, and they'll be considered next week. Some of the things that we deviated from that policy on were pool fees, skate rental fees for the ice rink, and other fees that would potentially be difficult for people to pay in cash. So like if someone's coming to the pool and wanting to swim for $3, we didn't want to increase it to like $3.10 to make change. A lot of people pay with cash, so it's easier for our customer service staff. We did not make any changes this year for fees that were recently adjusted. So the court usage fees, the field use fees that were recently back and forth between the council and the Parks Commission about 2 years ago, the field use, the Pioneer Hall and Community Center fees are staying the same, and Oak Knoll Golf Course fees will stay the same, but they will be adjusted around 20% with an internal policy that we have. So we'll be looking at that. I sent you guys all the fee book. There was a question from Commissioner Lant about the Kayagwanawato fees. And my suggestion is if that's something that the commission wanted to consider for next year, looking at like a 3-year process, 3-year increase of fees, we could look at that, put that on the agenda for early next year to look at.
Okay, any questions?
Did you?
Any questions on the fees or anything else that's been discussed?
Just one question. When Parks Manager Caldwell was here, we were talking about the driving range. What's the schedule on that?
Yeah, so we just got back today the drawings for the Oak Knoll Golf Course driving range, and we're working on estimate now, hoping to bring something to the commission on the CIP soon, probably June or July-ish. But it looks like to do a replacement, the same, so wooden poles, same as before. It's probably going to be around what we got the insurance money for. So it was like around $185,000. That's what we're kind of looking at right now. So I'll need to bring back to the commission some information for the CIP so we can add that onto the CIP and try to move forward with that project. We'd like to be able to implement that, like starting a project on that like this fall. So we can do that project this winter, and then so for next spring we've got a driving range. So that would be our hope at this point on that project. But the insurance money that we're receiving from that wind damage, we think would cover most of the cost of that project.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Items from commissioners or staff. Anybody have something they need to get off their chest? All right, upcoming meeting dates. There will be a Trails Advisory Committee meeting on May 20th at the Grove at 4:15. Our joint meeting with City Council on June 3rd in council chambers. That one the mayor will be presiding. Park Commission regular meeting, June 10th, which we've been talking about. No study session in June. And then a Park Commission regular business meeting, July 8th, council chambers, 6 p.m. And I think we're to the end of the agenda, but Commissioner Adams has something to say.
Sorry, just real quick, and sorry if I'm stealing, I don't think I'm stealing your thunder because your finger wasn't up. The Forest Lands Commission met last night. Commissioner Weiner and I were in attendance, and they considered the Glenview Hillside Trail proposal. Had minor suggestions, but no major red flags, so we can expect to be getting their notes sometime soon.
Yeah, I actually got an email from Chris Chambers about that, and he's going to try to, we're hoping that he can type it up before the Trails Committee meets next week, but we'll see if that moves forward.
Thank you. Anything else? Meeting adjourned.